Peace and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. I'd like to title this segment, Righteousness and Judgment. Once again, this segment is entitled Righteousness and Judgment. We have no idea what these two things mean, nor are we ready to live and do them. All right. First, let's deal with the term righteousness. Righteousness is of the Most High. If we're thinking of anything that's righteous, we're thinking of something that's godly. We're thinking of something that is just. Okay, we're thinking of something that is holy. That is what righteousness is. And righteousness is encompassed of the Most High's law. A righteous person is a just person, is a fair person, is someone who understands equity. Okay, there's no unfairness in them. They're not cheaters, they're not liars, they're not adulterers or idolaters, and that would be someone who is in alignment with the Most High's law. Now, righteousness is law. Righteousness is the Most High. Righteousness is order. Now, righteousness is lacking in the midst of the earth for the simple fact that the people of the earth were told that there is no law. If there is no law, then that means there is no righteousness. If there is no righteousness, what you have done in essence, you have removed the equator, you have moved the creator out of all equations, because the Most High is the law. The Most High is truth. The Most High is righteousness. So to remove that law is to remove the Most High, to remove truth, and to remove righteousness. So if you ever wonder why that the truth perishes in these many lands, they're nothing but a bunch of liars, they're thieves, they're idolaters, and there is no law. As I've told you in previous videos, lack of law equals lawlessness. The Creator is not lawless. He has a righteous order set up. So the famine in the many nations in which we dwell, the famine is a famine and a thirst for the truth, for the words of the Most High, for righteousness. For there is no righteousness within the earth, because they're teaching us and have taught us and the peoples of the nations that there is no law. No law equals no righteousness. No righteousness equals no wisdom, equals no light. And when you remove these things, then what you have left is darkness, evil, and confusion. As it pertains to righteousness, the children of Israel throughout the earth are seeking righteousness. We are seeking justice. We are seeking equity. The problem that we're having in not being able to attain these things is that we're turning to our enemies for them. Our enemies don't have them. It's not within their possession. So they cannot give us that which they have never known, nor do they have possession of it. To multiply our sins and to cause more confusion in the midst of us, we're asking for a thing that we cannot recognize, or we do not know, nor do we understand. Excuse me. Now, what do I mean by that? When we speak of righteousness, the average Israelite may say, we're seeking justice. We may march for justice. We may cry out for justice. We have no understanding of what justice really is. Because if we're going to deal with any type of justice, justice means equitable punishment for breaking of law. What law are we talking about? We're talking about the Most High's law. So if we're going to ask someone for justice, we have to start to consider justice against what? Justice for whom? Because once we start dealing with justice, now we have to deal with judgment. And there can be no judgment unless there's a judge. And there can be no judgment unless there's established law in which to place that judgment by. So once we start looking into the term and the word of righteousness, then it becomes clear that there is law established somewhere, and that the punishments or the judgment is going to be based on law that is well established. So that is to be clear. Now, where our problems come in is that we're seeking something that we do not know and we do not understand. We're seeking judgment. We're seeking truth. We're seeking righteousness. We're seeking justice. We're seeking something that we ourselves do not have possession of. And that's where our problem lies. We want justice for what's done to us. We want redemption for the wickedness that was done to us, while we ourselves remain in a state of wickedness. And it doesn't work that way. We can only achieve or attain justice through our own righteousness. Let me say that again. We can only attain justice by way of our own righteousness. In other words, for the many problems that we're seeing throughout the earth in the many nations in which we have been scattered, we can get justice, we can get righteousness and righteous judgment for all that was done to us. But it is impossible for us to achieve any of these things if we do not turn to the Most High, who encompasses and controls all of that. So we cannot get righteousness if we ourselves are unrighteous. So we're asking for a thing that we ourselves have no idea what it is, because most of the children of Israel have no idea what the Most High's laws are and what his criteria is for peace, his criteria for righteousness, his criteria for justice, for equity. How do we achieve wisdom? How do we extend the length of our days? Things of the like. Our people don't know. And we cannot be upset at them because this information was never given to them. However, there are some of us who the Most High has poured out his Spirit upon us that has caused us to seek after his face, to seek after his holy name, to seek after his law. So when we teach our people these things, we are to keep in mind that many of them have never heard of the Most High's law before. So many of the things that they're doing in ignorance because they have been taught, and according to their understanding, there is no law. They have never considered to themselves that no law equals lawlessness and a free-for-all. It doesn't even cross their minds because the light has not been shined upon them for them to achieve that level of wisdom. So when we're dealing with righteousness, the first thing when we start to seek any type of equity, when we start to seek any type of righteousness and any type of justice, the first thing that we're going to run into the Most High, because he encompasses all of these things. So when we want righteousness, the first stop is the Most High. When we want justice and equity, the first stop is the Most High. So once we come into the Most High, we're going to bump into his law because he represents all of these things. And so we must be willing now, if we're going to get equity, if I'm going to call you a thief and I want you accountable for your thievery, I can't be stealing also. I need to be walking the straight line. I need to be walking in righteousness. That way, when I call you out as a thief and I'm walking in righteousness, I can get it to where you will be punished for what you're doing. But I can't get a man punished for what he's doing when I'm engaged in the same behavior. So the sinful ways of our enemies, we are engaged in the same exact thing. And that is why we get absolutely no equity in these lands, because you can't charge a man with the same thing that you're guilty of. Most High is not listening to you. He's not listening to us once we try to do these things. So let's turn to the Most High's law, his statutes, judgments, and his precepts, and let's walk within them. And therein, we will establish ourselves as righteous. We will be holy because we are to be a holy people unto him. And the Most High is holy. Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. So if we're going to walk with him, We have no other choice but to be holy. Means we need to be in these laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. Keep in mind that only a tenth will return unto these laws. So if you speak to 100 brothers, 10 of them might listen. If you speak to 100 heathen or strangers, 10 of them will listen. Okay? So as it pertains to righteousness, righteousness is truth. Understand that truth is something when spoken in these lands, you're condemned for it. Okay? The truth is something that upsets people. They don't want to hear it. For all the slavery and the murder and all the things that were done to our people that's just flat out evil, they don't show this on the TV screens anymore. They don't put these in the books. They don't want to show you any of the evil they have done towards our people because they do not want to present a bad image of themselves to our people or to the rest of the earth, nor do they want us to remember what they have done to us and their evil ways. We are in the midst of unrighteous people. And the reason why we are in the midst of unrighteous people, because we ourselves were and are unrighteous. And so therefore we cannot get righteousness or a righteous judgment upon our enemies if we ourselves are unrighteous. And this is why, in order for us to see any justice, any equity, okay, and any judgment against our enemies, the first thing that we must do is turn back to the Most High, who is the one that has sent us to our enemies to take this harsh beat down that we're taking right now. We wanted to be wicked people, so we were sent in the midst of wicked people. If we want to be redeemed, we must turn back to his righteousness, which is his law. Many of us are unwilling to do that. We want to walk in the ways of the heathen, and then we want to complain about the wickedness of the heathen. But if we take a closer look and analyze ourselves and analyze our people, we will see clearly that our people walk in total opposition to the Most High and his law, and so does the heathen. And that is why we're here. So this is an opportunity for you to hear the words of the Most High, to consider your ways and your doings and make them good, and make a total 180 from going in the wrong direction. And that is the Most High's righteousness. That is his law, and we must turn to it. Now, as it pertains to judgment, there can be no judgment without righteous law established. Judgment is simply punishment for law breaking. That's what judgment is. As I've said earlier, we are seeking after a thing that we do not understand. We're seeking after a thing that we are unwilling ourselves to do. We want righteousness, but we don't want to walk on a righteous path. We want justice, and when the gavel of justice is giving into our hand, we don't want to swing it. What do I mean by that? For every breaking of law, i.e. sin, the Most High has a judgment attached to that error, to that folly, to that sin breaking. It may be lashes, it may be banishment, it may be confiscation of your goods, it may be death by stoning, it may be death by fire. Okay, he has many different. All sin is not the same. That's another set of lies that we're told. Okay, there are different judgments for sin, and I just named a few of them. Death being the ultimate punishment. When you do something absolutely off the charts, then you're killed for it. What we want, we're asking for justice. If you want justice, then you want judgment. For judgment, you need law. For judgment, you need a judge. So once we are given an opportunity to render judgment, we turn and do the opposite. We turn and do something that's unrighteous. You will read in the book where the Most High specifically told Saul, kill all these Amalekites. Kill them all. The women, the children, the men, the animals. Leave nothing alive. Saul figured, I'll kill them, but I'm going to leave this king Agag. I'm going to let him live. and all the nice sheep that they have, and the goat and the oxen and all these other things, we ain't gonna let them things live. We're gonna kill them all. We could use this stuff. We can sacrifice unto the Most High. We could do this. We can do that. So the judgment upon the Amalekites that Saul, the governor, the anointed of the Most High, the instructions, the commandment that he was given by the Most High was to kill them all. Don't let the women, the children, or the animals live. Kill them all. Saul did not do that. He was fearful of the people. The people wanted to keep some of the animals, and they wanted to sacrifice some of the best of the animals, the Amalekites, to the Most High. So he totally disregarded the commandment that he was given, which is a sin. And because of this thing, the Most High removed Saul from being governor over Israel, because he was rebellious in walking after the commandment given by the Most High. He was not willing to carry out the judgment that the Most High had set against all of those Amalekites. So they let Agag live. Now, Samuel the prophet killed Agag, took the sword to him, and did that which Saul was not willing to do. Saul put the people before the Most High, instead of walking after the commandment that he was given by the Most High by way of Samuel. He did not kill those Amalekites. So Samuel killed those Amalekites. It's important for us to understand that, so we know clearly that the house of Israel is not the type of people in the days of old that you smite us on one side of the face and we turn the other side of the face, let you hit us on the other side of the face, and then we say, sorry, boss. It's not been our way. You will not read that anywhere from our forefathers in the days of old. And this is Samuel, a Levite, doing what he's doing. So he killed Agag, and you will see and you will read that the Levites were valiant men. These are warriors. Okay, so our priestly tribe, by no means were they some type of cowardly men. If you read what Levi and his brother Simeon did to the sons of Ham after the circumcision, waited for a few days while they were sore, those Levi and his brother went in there and killed them. Okay, so Levi is just not the type of, it's not the type of tribe, it's not the type of men to play with. That is why the Most High separated Levi and all of the house of Israel, because the house of, the house of Levi, these men are not to be played with. Okay, and these are the priests. So we have to get out of this mindset that we are to forgive everyone and allow everyone to step on our necks, and we're not to do anything about it. Now, as it pertains to judgment, our people are not seeing judgment because we are not walking righteously. That's number one. That's why we continue to march, cry, and do all these things, because we're not turning to the Most High, asking Him for judgment. And if we are doing that, if we're asking Him, He's not giving it to us for the simple fact that we're not walking in the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts that He had given us from the first, or at the first. So we have to turn to those things in order for us to see any bit of equity, righteousness, and true judgment within the earth, especially as it pertains to our behalf. When it comes to judgment, the house of Israel are asking for a thing that they're not ready to deliver. And what do I mean by that? Let's take South Africa for an example. And we'll see the same thing here in America and throughout the diaspora. When South Africa had an opportunity to punish all those Europeans who had came to their land, murdered their people, killed them, okay, literally decimated the place, lied to them, and did all manners of evil unto them, the South Africans were put in a position, the black South Africans. As a matter of fact, there's no other thing but a black South African. And we'll use that black as a generic term because everyone understands what I mean by that. There's no need for us to play semantics at this point. The black South Africans, and there's no such thing as a white South African. He's a European. He's not native to that land. When the South Africans actually had an opportunity to punish the whites, and those Europeans that had murdered them and done all the evil things towards them, they settled for something called truth and reconciliation. No one went to jail. No one got killed. No one was executed. The lands weren't taken from them. And those people were not expelled. So when it was time to issue the judgment for the foulness that the Europeans had done, the people of South Africa cowered down. And so in a time when they were to render righteous judgment, they turned their backs from rendering righteous judgment and did what was unrighteous, which is allowing the unrighteous to get away with unrighteousness. So our people are not willing to walk the walk. We're asking for justice, but when that opportunity is given, you ask for justice, here it is. Here's this man's neck. His neck is on this platter. Are you, the judgment is death for him? Or are you willing to swing that axe? And our people are not ready, nor are we willing to execute judgment on the behalf of true righteousness, righteous judgment. And once we do these things and we turn our face away from executing the righteous judgment of the Most High, then our sins become multiplied. So when I hear these people in South Africa complaining about what's being done to them by the European today, I close my ears. I don't even pay attention to them. Because when you had an opportunity to render righteous judgment for that which was done to you in unrighteousness, you were cowards, and they failed to carry out and to execute righteous judgment for the unrighteousness that was done unto them. Now, we see the same thing when dealing with our people in America. The man kills your son, you are going to march, you're going to go in the back and take some money. You're going to agree not to show the tape where they gunned your son down in cold blood. You're going to go out and make a speech and calm the people down because you have been paid. And then a few days later, a few weeks later, one of our sons get killed again, or two of them get killed again, because one of us was not righteous enough to stand up and say, you know what, I'm not going to take a dime of this money. Release that tape to me. That way I can show my people and I can show the people of the earth your unrighteousness towards our people. I can expose your wickedness, and no amount of money is going to spare you from me exposing you to be the wicked people that you are. We are not doing this because we are walking in wickedness ourselves. So once we take a hold of the Most High's law, we will walk in it. That's one. And while walking in it, we will not at no time pardon or excuse anyone, whether he be of Israel or whether he be of the nations. We will not tolerate him walking outside of those laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. We will not tolerate him violating our people, our sons, or our daughters. When our enemies kill our sons, we don't say anything about it. We don't do anything about it. We may march for a minute or two, but that wouldn't last long, and there's no results that come of it as concrete and long lasting. Now, we can't possibly expect any judgment from that for the simple fact that our sons are killing our sons. And some of us are killing our sons. So, we cannot partake in a thing and then expect to hold other people accountable or punish them for a thing that we are doing. You look at these Christian churches and the pastors who are idolaters. They are not the sons of Aaron. These churches are eminent high places. They are not the house of the Most High. And you all should know this by now. The men in there do not wear the attire of the Most High's Levitical priest. These men are con men. These men are idolaters. However, the house of Israel put these men up on a pedestal. These men will run through our daughters. These men will steal money. These men will lay down with the people's wives in the church and all other of foul things, all manner of foul things. And once this man is exposed for being the foul individual that he is, then the people of the quote unquote congregation, once this chump is exposed for being everything anti the Creator's law, then the people will get together and say, you know what? He is just a man. He has faults like any other man. Let's not hold him accountable because we all have faults and we all have sinned. Therefore, let us forgive him for knocking up the 13-year-old. Let's forgive him for laying down with a boy in the church. Let's forgive him for laying down with Mr. Johnson's wife and all these other nonsense that we see. This other foulness, unrighteousness in the midst of our people. And the reason why our people do this is not because we are forgiving people, it's because we are unrighteous people. It is simple as that. And we are willing to forgive and act like we don't see and we don't hear the unrighteousness that's before us, because we are hoping that should our unrighteousness be exposed, we would hope that the people around us would give us a pass as well. What we fail to keep in mind is that when we decide to not render righteous judgment, that then it falls upon our own heads. And that is why our condition and our punishments are multiplied, because we are not willing to do what we're supposed to do to ensure that there's no wickedness in the house of Israel. When someone stepped out of line in the days of old and we were to kill him, we killed him or killed her or killed them to ensure that that wickedness does not spread. Because when there is no judgment for wickedness, then everyone feels as though wickedness is the norm, and wickedness and unrighteousness are one and the same, and it destroys a nation. It causes the Most High to send evil against you and against us. So we are not to be accepting of any evil at all. And because of our people walking in their evil and unrighteous ways, we are letting evil thrive in the midst of us, because we are hoping that should our evil ever be exposed, that we will get a pass as well. Big error. How so? As it pertains to the Most High's law, as it pertains to his righteousness, as it pertains to his judgment, punishment for breaking law, we see in America where, like I've said before, when one of our sons are killed, we're going to back and take the money. We won't say anything, won't release the tapes. And then we're going to come up and we're going to hug the man that killed our son, or we're going to go have a press conference with his family and hug and talk about peace and forgiveness. Understand, it is made plain to us that the wicked man could care less about any favor that you show him. He will not regard it. So you can hug him, you can give him a pass, you can say you forgive him. That man in his wickedness does not regard anything that you have just said or anything that you have just done. And clearly, our people do not understand how forgiveness works. In the book of the Romans, called the New Testament, apparently you can just sin 1,000 times, and if you ask for forgiveness, then God is going to forgive you. If your brother sins against you 1,000 times and he asks for forgiveness, you're to forgive him. This is contrary to the Most High's law. Let's take into account Levi, the priest, and his sons once again. When his sons walked contrary to the Most High's law and did things that Levites are not supposed to do or Israelites are not supposed to do, the Most High told Levi, I'm going to kill you and kill your sons. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing that you can do to stop this. There's no sacrifice, there's no offering that you can bring before me to save you or to spare you and your house for what I'm going to do to you. So understand that the Most High is not about you sinning 10,000 times and you asking forgiveness 10,000 times. Once you make a sin against the Most High, You are to atone for it once it's been brought to your knowledge that you are sinning against the Most High and walking contrary to His law. But don't think for 1 second that you're going to do that over and over again and ask for forgiveness. You cannot find that in the Torah. It does not exist. So we have to be mindful when it comes to talking about forgiveness. We have to understand that none of this law in which we are to obey and to walk in was ever created by any of us. So if someone kills one of our sons, we do not have the power. I don't care how much you hug them. Don't care how much you kiss them. Don't care how much you're afraid of them. Don't care how much money they pay you. You do not possess the power to forgive them. You don't. It is the Most High that forgives anyone for any transgression. That's His law. We are scattered in these lands. So for us to be forgiven of anything that we have done, it will take that person that have done the wrongdoing to get on their knees, to face Jerusalem, and to lift their hands in prayer, acknowledging their faults, and then not doing that thing again. Now, when we're back in the land, when we're returned there, that go-between would be the Levite. We would take our offerings, we will take our vows, whatever it is that we may have, our sin offering, our trespass offering, etc. We will take it up to the priest. The priest will be the go-between between us and the Most High. The priest will offer that sacrifice up on the behalf of us. He will offer it unto the Most High, and the Most High will accept our offering and forgive us in that regard. And that's the only way. Someone telling you they forgive you does not get you off the hook of the Most High's judgment and His punishment. So we need to understand that this forgiveness thing from man to man is not how it works. But you will not know this unless you are in this law. When you sin, you're not sinning against a man. You're sinning against the Most High's law. And since it's His law, for you to be pardoned, you got to go to Him. You can't go to the man. You can't go to his family. You can't go to his brother. And his brother tell you, man, we forgive you for killing our sons. That's not how that goes. And once again, as we turn to this law and we understand how our forefathers dealt with our enemies in the days of old, as we turn to this law, the Most High will strengthen us against our enemies. He will cause our enemies to be at peace with us. We will rise up above them. And for all the wickedness that they have done to us, they're going to pay. And the people that's going to make them pay is the very people that they have abused and killed. With that said, for us to be redeemed, people are going to have to die. In other words, all these people that have killed us over the centuries, their sons and daughters are here. And come time of judgment for what they have done, and the Most High does render punishment to the third and the fourth generation. Which means if you're foul and your son is foul, it's extended 3 generations. He's foul too, it's extended 3 more generations. And that's how it goes. So, there will come a time when the men of Israel will have to render judgment. And that judgment is going to be death upon these nations. And you're going to have to be willing to go to war against them. And right now, we are not willing to do this, for we do not understand what true judgment really is. So unless we are willing to enforce righteous judgment and to walk within the righteousness of the Most High's law, we will never see justice, judgment, or equity from our enemies. Because we cannot force their hand, because they are not responsible for anything. The Most High is responsible for the evil that we see each and every day, and we have to turn to Him. So, as it pertains to righteousness, that's the Most High's law. Righteousness is a thing in the earth right now that you can't find. The Most High, the average man doesn't even know what righteousness is if you ask him. And he certainly does not walk within this law. So since our people don't do this, We cannot get righteous judgment because we are unrighteous ourselves. And when we are placed in a position to which we can render righteous judgment unto our enemies, we turn our face away. We don't want to render the judgment. Okay? And there was a reason, like I said before, why we killed homosexuals in the days of old. Because that stuff will destroy a nation. But the average man in Israel, I don't want to do that. That's my son. I don't want to hit him with bricks upside his head. I don't want to stone my cousin. That's my favorite cousin, or whatever they call. Or that's my uncle. That's my dad. Or that's my son. We were not willing to enforce the righteous judgment. So when we did these things and turned away from enforcing righteous judgment, then our sins became multiplied, and the Most High turned His face away from us. So the cowardly behavior that we are displaying in these nations of not being willing to enforce judgment, in some of us it's gotten so bad that we're not even willing to speak righteousness when we see something that's being done that's totally unrighteous. We refuse to face our enemies and charge him with unrighteousness towards our people. We're fearful that we may lose our job. We're fearful we may not get this money. We're fearful of how people may look at us. Now, with that said, for the stranger that follows this channel and listens to any of this, understand the time is coming to where the stranger is going to have to make a decision on whether he will walk after the ways of his father. Just like the house of Israel, we have to make a decision whether we will walk after the evil ways of our father, or will we turn to the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts and do them. To the European, to the strangers of the earth that has been foul towards the children of Israel, you have to make a decision on whether you will walk after the ways of your slave master, father, grandfather, and cousin, and all those other people who are hateful and evil. You're going to make a decision whether you have to walk, whether you will walk in their shoes, or whether you also will take a hold of righteousness and do that which is righteous. That is where we all are at this point. That goes for both the stranger as well as the man of Israel. We will all have to turn to the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts and do them and enforce them and walk within them. And anyone that doesn't do that will simply be killed. So everyone has have a decision. Everyone has got a decision to make. Will you walk in righteousness? And in so doing, if you're going to walk in righteousness, that means you have to be willing and ready to execute righteous judgment for wrongdoing against righteousness, for wrongdoing against the truth, for wrongdoing against the Most High's law. And a lot of our men just are simply not ready, and we are not disciplined enough to do this. So we are asking for a thing that we do not understand. We do not live by justice. We do not live by righteousness. Therefore, we cannot be asking for it. For we do not live in it. We do not walk in it. And most of us simply don't know what it is. Nor are we willing to keep the establishment of righteous judgment by punishing wrongdoers. So these are some of the things that we need to consider when we start talking about righteousness, when we start talking about judgment, when we start talking about truth. All of these things encompasses the Most High and His Word. And unless we are rolling with Him, unless we are rocking with Him, unless we are walking with Him, we're not going to get any justice. We're not going to get any equity. We're not going to get any righteousness, because that is foreign to us. More so, it is foreign to our enemies. So let's go ahead and take a hold of this mantle. Let's go ahead and grab a hold of this breastplate of righteousness and turn towards the Most High and His law and walk within His righteousness. And then we will be able to see righteous judgment, because we're going to be some of the people. The Most High is going to do it, but we will also be the people enforcing this righteous judgment. That way, those of us that are around us can bear witness to the fact that certain types of behavior in the midst of the children of Israel is absolutely unacceptable. It is punishable by death and other means of punishment. And the people that are walking within these laws are to be ready, willing, and able to execute it, to ensure that no evil multiplies itself in the midst of the children of Israel, or multiplies itself in the midst of the stranger who are dwelling within the children of Israel, within the midst of them. So that concludes this segment pertaining to righteousness and judgment. There is no righteousness for anyone that's walking in unrighteousness. There is no judgment, righteous judgment, for anyone that's going to walk in unrighteousness. You have to be willing to execute righteous judgment, and you will not be given that authority to execute righteous judgment if you yourself are unrighteous. Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. That concludes this segment as it pertains to righteousness and judgment. Peace, and Yah bless.